Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us here on KXAN Live. I'm Will Dupree, coming to you from the KXAN Live studio. The warmer temperatures we're all experiencing right now, and undoubtedly you all are outside enjoying them too, well, they're also exposing some problems that last week's Arctic cold snap caused. The Austin Bat Refuge shared this video on social media. It shows some of the bats the group started caring for earlier this week after things warmed up, and they fell from their homes underneath some of the city's bridges. Now, we wanted to share what you can do if you encounter a bat lying on a trail under a bridge in Austin and other ways to help. So we wanted to welcome to the conversation this afternoon Lee McKenzie and Diane Odegaard, the co-founders of the Austin Bat Refuge. Lee and Diane, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to do this.
Sure, our
Thanks
pleasure.
for having us.
Yeah, let's start with talking about the impact of last week's Arctic cold front. What impact did you see this had on the local bat population?
Lee?
We were expecting the worst given 2 years ago and the massive fallout from Winter Storm Uri that occurred once the weather started to warm up. We were dreading the first warm few days, expecting the same thing, and we were thrilled to find that our bridge sweeps turned up far fewer bats this year. That being the case, there was still quite a bit of mortality, so the poor little bats do get affected by this cold weather, and we feel like our job is to go and find the ones that are we're able to help and to rehab them and get them back out to the bridges.
And help you are indeed doing, because behind you there is a little habitat where you've kept some of these bats that you're starting to revive. Tell us about what we're looking at back there.
Yeah, these are some of the bats that came in from Round Rock a couple of days ago. So there was, we've had quite a few bats come in from the bridges. We have about 9 local bridges, and these are all from one bridge up in Round Rock. We've had another bridge in North Austin where we've recovered and released scores of bats a couple of nights ago. These guys just came in 2 nights ago, so we're trying our best to get them hydrated and top them off, get them fed up, and hopefully we'll be able to release them tomorrow night back at the same bridge.
Oh, well, that's definitely some good news there. But tell us about how you work to revive them and care for them when they come into your care, particularly when they're affected by the cold that was last week.
Well, what we do first is to get some fluids into them with these little syringes. We put about 1 milliliter of lactated Ringer's solution under their skin and try to get them rehydrated. They can't really rehydrate by mouth. You can't get them to drink enough water to get rehydrated. So that's the very first thing we do. Actually, it's the second thing. What we do first is warm them up. Sorry. Yeah, we warm them up first so that they can actually absorb this fluid. And then we feed them delicious sort of a blended mealworm mixture that the bats really like. And we get some food into their stomachs. And by that time, they're feeling a lot better, unless they have injuries. And we do have a few that have some wing injuries. But most of them are in good shape after rehydration and a little bit of food and ready to be released once the weather is going to get warm and stay warm for a few days.
I wanted to mention that most of all the bats we took in were freezing cold. They had fallen, it had warmed up, but it was still really cold under the bridges, and they had dropped and they all looked to be dead. So we put them in big boxes and let them gradually warm up, and the ones that had not passed away, we were able to put in other habitats. But it's really hard to tell at first if they are alive and dead when they're cold stunned. So it's really quite rewarding when they do suddenly come back to life, and it's really kind of what we like the best about this. That's a pretty easy rehab thing if all you have to do is warm them up. So we like that.
There're just a lot of them, but that's why we want people to not assume that the bats that they see on the trail are dead, even if they look that way, they're not moving, and to scoot them off the trail and call us. Because they may very well be alive, and we just don't want them to get run over by cyclists or runners on the trails.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity there for sure that could affect them. But let's just go back over those. I made a little full screen so that people could keep in mind the things that they should do if they should see a bat lying on a trail under a bridge. But remind us of those things that people should keep in mind if they see one.
Well, first thing is, yeah, of course, don't try to pick up a bat. And even before that, be aware of traffic. We don't want anybody going out into traffic because they see a bat in a thoroughfare or even on a trail. You have to be careful on a trail. Don't want anybody run over by or bicycles for that matter. You know, we want people to be aware of their surroundings.
And please just take your own safety as the first thing.
Yeah, but beyond that, if they're in the middle of a trail where they could be run over by bicycles, that happens frequently under, say, Loyola Bridge or under Congress or some of the other local bridges as well. Try to, if it looks like it's in danger of getting run over, just try to scoot it off the trail a little bit. Don't use your hands, but try to use anything else, a piece of cardboard or a stick, to gently move it off the trail. We don't want anybody just, you know, you have to be careful not to hurt them, but just scooting them off the trail is far better than having them be run over by traffic. So once that happens, if they call us, we'll come and get them immediately. We don't want anybody picking them up. That's our job. Scoot them off the trail and call us. We're happy to come get them.
And if anybody's interested in the numbers to call, we have those available right now on KXAN.com. So please check out our story about this if you see a bat and need to report it to the Austin Bat Refuge. If anybody's just joining us too, I'm talking to Diane Odegaard and Lee McKenzie with the Austin Bat Refuge, and they've picked up a number of bats since the temperatures started warming up, and some of the bats have been affected by the cold snap that we had last week. And you all spoke about this just a few moments ago, but I wanted to just ask again, what is it like whenever you get to, take one of these bats into your care, see it get better, and then release it back to where it lives?
Oh.
Well, that's our favorite outcome, of course. Any bat that we take in for rehabilitation at any time of the year, we always have a goal of eventually releasing the bat, and that's always our the high point of that particular encounter. And with these bats, just the sheer numbers of them is really an extra special feeling of satisfaction for us when we can release 10 or 20 or 50 bats to the bridge that they came from. Is just a wonderful feeling, and we're very grateful to the people who have reached out to us about the bats that they've seen on the ground too.
Yeah, there's really nothing like taking a habitat like this one full of bats out to one of the bridges and have them hear their other bat friends and have them smell the unique smell of that bridge, and they get so excited. They start buzzing around in this little habitat, and when you open the zipper, they just come pouring out.
Yeah.
It's really fun. So
Yeah.
nothing really much more rewarding than that. So
I know you all really worried about how that cold snap last week was going to compare to what happened back in 2021 during that deadly winter storm. Just if you could share how that compared, these two situations, to the impact of the bats here.
Last year, it wasn't until the temperature, 2 years ago, two Valentine's days ago, the bats falling out of the bridge didn't start until the temperatures warmed up. We thought we were home free, but then when the ice melted, our Austin Bat igloo melted, and our flight cage had turned into an igloo over the storm. When it melted, we thought all we had to do was go collect all the bats that people had called about during the freeze. But then the phone started ringing off the hook. They dropped by the thousands. So we would go and make a sweep of a bridge and come back to the refuge and think we were all done, and then the phone would ring again, and it would go back and it would look like we'd never been there. So we took in 1,000 bats 4 days in a row during Winter Storm Uri. That was brutal. So this has been nowhere near as severe. There's been quite a bit of mortality, but not near as bad as Winter Storm Uri. So we were dreading what we would find a couple of days ago when it first warmed up, but we're thrilled to find out that it doesn't seem to be as bad as we had feared.
We are apprehensive because, of course, this is only December, and Winter Storm Uri happened in mid-February, so there's a lot of winter yet to go, and we're just crossing our fingers that we don't have a lot of long-term freezing weather.
People who may be watching our live stream are wondering how much help they can provide to you all, because from what it seems like, you all are doing quite a bit of work caring for these bats that were impacted by last week's freeze. So what can you tell people about the types of assistance that you all need at this time?
Thanks for asking that. At this point, we are there. It's a specialized skill. So, all our volunteers are vaccinated and tested for COVID regularly, so it's hard for us to take on a bunch of help, on short notice. But of course, this all stuff always happens during the holiday when we're kind of on a skeleton crew. But at this point, really, we do have an end of the year fundraiser coming up. That kind of, it's in progress right now. That gives us the flexibility to get what we actually need at that given moment, as opposed to donations of any one particular product. We're doing pretty well supply-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got so many donations of the supplies that we need for this kind of event, the syringes and the heating pads. So many people were so generous during or after Winter Storm Uri that we actually still have quite a few of the supplies that they sent us almost 2 years ago. People were just amazing. So we're doing really well with supplies, thank goodness. And we're just hoping for some donations at the end of the year so that we can continue to supply the bats and the refuge with the materials and the equipment that we need.
Yeah, so we can be ready for the next event.
Right.
I have a feeling
Probably
there'll be a few more
be.
of these
There may
before
be
the end
another
of the
one.
winter.
Hmm.
But
Well,
other than that, if people would simply advocate for bats, just talk to their neighbors and just say, bats are really great neighbors, and they're completely harmless if simply left alone, and they're super valuable, and they provide a huge ecological service for us every night when they're simply going out and trying to feed their families, and they're fascinating. And
events like this, is as tragic as they are for the bats, sometimes actually really do generate some empathy and some understanding from the public about how fragile these bats can be in many situations, including weather changes, extreme heat or cold. So in some ways it might be something that people can really take to heart and understand that we really need these bats, and that the bats actually need us as in humans.
Mm-hmm. Well, before I let you two go, you've been so insightful and helpful, and I can tell your passion for the bats and caring for them comes through whenever you were just talking about them, which is so amazing. But before we let you go, I just wanted to reiterate what we're looking at behind you there. These are some of the bats that you've taken in since last week's cold front.
Right.
Yeah, many have been released already, but these are on track to hopefully be released in a couple of days. Let's take a look and see who we've got here. They kind of get PTSD on these big cold events, and they all clump together in big clumps.
Of course, these are colonial bats that like to roost close to many of their friends. We may get some flying out here. Yeah, let's just see up close what one of these bats looks like. Okay.
Here's one of these little guys. They're super cute and really, really well. They're just each one is a unique individual, uh, and they have their own unique personality and life history, and they're amazing little creatures. So when you say that we have the passion, that kind of thing just happens naturally when you work with bats. The more you get to know them, the more amazed you are by them, and next thing you know it, you find yourself running the bat refuge.
Yeah, just happens like that, right?
Yeah, it does.
Well,
Slippery slope.
I appreciate both of you two, for joining us this afternoon and to talk about the work that you're doing and taking a little bit of a break from looking after the bats and showing us one of them too. This was a bit of a science lesson for all of us. So Diane Odegaard, Lee McKenzie with the Austin Bat Refuge. Thank you both again for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Sure
very
thing,
much,
Will.
Will. Appreciate it.
All right, and we will check in with you again, I'm sure, at some other point this year. Or next year,
All
I
right.
should say.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, everybody. Again, you can read more about the work that these two are doing over on our website, kxan.com, plus some important things to remember if you should see a bat lying on one of the trails out there in Austin because of this cold front. Thank you all again for watching. I'm Will Dupree in the KXAN Live studio. We appreciate you being with us. We will see you back here at another time. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.